Evening, everyone. Welcome to the penultimate episode of the Daily Objective. And today we have with us my other objectivist half, Razi Ginzberg, aka the Lord Emperor behind the scenes, aka the director of Ayn Rand Center UK. And the topic is according to the theme of this week. So we have a look at 2020, but mostly looking forward. What are the opportunities or the challenges for objectivist activism for the next year? And maybe what were our biggest epiphanies and the lessons we took this year? So also just to give a heads up about tonight. So last week we started a series where we tackle the topics where there's a lot of controversy around Ayn Rand's ideas. So topics that Ayn Rand has not addressed as part of her canon, of her philosophy, so to speak, but because they were not that elaborated, they have created a lot of discussions. Last week, we tackled the issue of her view of Native Americans, and I discussed it with James Valiant. Today, we have James with us, and we will be joined by Harry Binswanger, and the topic is Rand's view on homosexuality. So again, this is material that you can only find in Ayn Rand Center UK, these difficult discussions. And the guy who makes this happen is with me tonight. So Razi, first of all, and this discussion is happening in an hour, so 7 p.m. UK time. So Razi, how was 2020, you think, for the Objectivist movement and the Ayn Rand Center more specifically? And what are the lessons learned?
Well, oddly enough, for the Ayn Rand Center UK, we did well, and considering the circumstances, I'm very proud of what we did, because as you remember, right before lockdowns happened, or right after they started, was when we were supposed to launch our series of weekly in-person panel events. Like we've had a social media and online presence since before we were officially incorporated. But there wasn't much of it. We were very much an in-person, organization that tried to spread objectivism through discussion groups and speaker events, and neither was possible from mid-March onwards. So I think we've pivoted to the online space well by doing well. I think the flagship show is this, the Daily Objective. But also having online events. I mean, we started with online events. We started by increasing the number of events that we did immediately, because it was all online. So it was logistically sort of less time consuming. Everybody was stuck at home. So we knew people, would appreciate having more events online. So yeah, for us, it's been interesting, because obviously we very much oppose the circumstances that brought us to to take the online space much seriously, and basically make it our entire all of our operations are online at the moment. So but yeah, that is a lesson that for us, we will we there's things within our control, and there are things that are outside of our control, and what is outside of our control, we should figure out how we best manage within those parameters.
Yeah, that was definitely a success. But for me, the most important thing was that very quickly, Ayn Rand Center UK took a position on the lockdowns. And for me, this is the biggest division of the good guys, so to speak, in 2020, which is, when exactly did you speak up? When exactly did you say, wait a minute, we have something unprecedented here, or okay, maybe not unprecedented, something very serious here, but we need to start asking some questions. And we did it very, very early. And actually, you were behind that. So that was a very good move. So that's one of the biggest, for me, that was the big success. And not to speak for other big success, my proudest moment is a moment I had nothing to do with, because I wasn't even on the call, which was the Leonard Peikoff event. The one celebrating his birthday, which became viral because of his comment on the upcoming elections. But that was a great moment. Okay, so Now let's talk a bit about 2021, and I'm gonna tell you what is my, let's say, big vision, not only for 21, but for the whole decade, and where I got the inspiration. But let's start with you. So are we gonna find ourselves in a situation where the ideas around freedom, which is part of the audience where we want to, that the audience want to address, do you think people will be craving more and more about it? Or are we gonna find ourselves in a situation where you see more and more people, supposed radicals, urging the government to lock us down even more fanatically than they currently do? There was a very funny, actually not funny, but very on point Instagram post by Brennan O'Neill today. He said something like, well, the schools are closed. We're not allowed to go out to drink or whatever. What exactly do they mean when they say they want an even stricter lockdown? So are we going to find ourselves in a situation, you think, where our ideas are going to be even more out of the pale, and we're going to be even more the weird radicals that we anyway are? Or do you think there's going to be more people who this year, 2020, has been the year where they thought, wait a minute, does the government really want my best? Or is there moral advice I get out there, sacrifice, go clap for the NHS? Is this really a good guide for my life? So how do you see the future in these terms?
So first of all, my proudest moment of 2020 was also the Leonard Peikoff event, and it's my proudest moment of my career. It was just a wonderful evening. And so, we were talking about how, as the Ayn Rand Center UK, we've done very well this year, and I think we'll do better next year. But will we be sort of already changing the culture? No, I think calls for lockdown will continue, will get stronger. I'm even more worried about the main voices you hear in sort of the anti-lockdown movement, which is too often, conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers, people who, go on these protests where, they're all like squished together and they're not wearing a mask because somehow a mask, is proof that you've given it. So, and people who think that COVID is a hoax. So this scares me. Like, if these are the two alternatives, then we're in big trouble. And yeah, what we should do is try to, grow awareness that there is an alternative to these two, false alternatives. And yeah, my most optimistic projections for 2021 is that we'll make a little bit more inroads on that path, but yeah, we're still far away, unfortunately.
Yeah, you mentioned both sides of the bad people. Today, after probably, I don't know, 8-9 years, I unfollowed the Zero Heads, because it used to be this breath of fresh air when it comes to economic news from the point of view of Austrian economics and these things like that. Lately, I keep seeing things like, that person who did the vaccine died. And then you read paragraphs, and then it says, oh, by the way, that was an old person and a dementia clinic was anyway on his or her last moments, which is the exact same reason why last week I unfollowed Sky News, because, and my timeline is, I don't need any of these people. Anyway, okay, so here's how I see the future and what gave me the inspiration for this. So my big epiphany in 2020 regarding objectivism is that we really have a nuclear weapon in our arms. This philosophy is a nuclear weapon, is the best thing that anyone has to fight in the world out there. And you mentioned, yeah, maybe we haven't changed the minds of many people, but I do know that we've changed the mind of individuals. So I want to change the world, but before you change the world, it's good, first of all, to change our own lives, to be better people, but also it's so good to see the community around the Ayn Rand Center UK, to see people who show up in our WhatsApp groups or in our events and say that this has brought value to their lives. So that's a good thing, that we have a philosophy that can also address the craziness and the madness in politics, but can also address how people can live a fulfilling and good life amidst this chaos. Like, how is this Kipling poem, if you can keep your mind when Anyway, I don't want to butcher it, so I'll just keep going. So my biggest lesson actually, though, did not come. My biggest inspiration did not come from objectivism. It came from reading about Stoicism, and it has nothing to do with the philosophy. Actually, the more I read about Stoicism, the least excited I became about Stoicism. But I understood two things. The first is that the Stoics talk a lot about the ancient philosophy. So, for example, in ancient Athens, and I realized that philosophical schools were something that has nothing to do with today's either the universities or the think tanks. It wasn't somewhere where you go and learn theories. You literally went there and learned, quote, how to live. Not in terms that someone would give you dictates, so they were not cults, but you have different philosophies that one thing they had in common is that they were all philosophies for life or philosophies of life. And reading this was such a huge epiphany. I was like, wow, we've completely lost this. What if there was a philosophy that can actually play this role? And wait, yes, there is, and it's objectivism. So that was my first big takeaway. The second was the success of Stoicism itself. So Stoicism is not a religion. It's not even a spiritual movement. And the good thing is that more and more people, particularly people in the tech world or in the Silicon Valley, so people who play a role in the direction of the world, say, look, I want a philosophy that guides my life. Now, in my opinion, Stoicism is not that philosophy, although it has some good things. But this thirst of people, and we also saw that with Jordan Peterson, this thirst by people to say, look, I want whatever I've been hearing and all this noise is not the end of the story. There must be something that works for me, for my life. So for me, that's the most optimist thing going forward, that there are many people there craving for good ideas, craving for a philosophy for life, a philosophy of life. And that's where I see objectivism playing a big role. So I could see, for example, I could see the revival of these schools, for example, but in a different way. It would be something between the universities of today, of course, way cheaper and way more useful. And at the end of the day, you see that these institutions, what they produce is people who wait on Twitter for the government to tell them what to do with their life or what to do with the pandemic. I'm stereotyping, but more or less, that's what I see on social media. I see people tell me what to do. Whereas this creates the space for people understanding that, no, I need to take my life in my own hands. And that's where I see the potential for objectivism, not only 21, but also in the future. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, as you know, I definitely agree, like with the idea that Jordan Peterson, even though I'm not a fan of much of what he says, well, you know, because you've heard this from me many times, that I think he's carved out our audience for us. It's people who, you know, who hear Peterson saying essentially, life is suffering, but here's a few ways in which you can mitigate the suffering. And that's the most positive thing that they've ever heard in their life. So, you know, if we get those people reading Ayn Rand or listening at least to, you know, to something we say and then reading Rand, then yeah, as you said, we've changed minds of individuals or helped them change their own mind. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we're not, you know, well, you and I might disagree on this, but at no point do I want to see central London filled with thousands of objectivists protesting with signs, having like 8-word rhyming slogans. That's not the way. I mean, I don't think anybody's mind gets changed because of that. So yeah, the goal is to get individuals, and you know, one of these individuals might be the next Yaron Brook, the next Leonard Peikoff. We don't know, you know, and there are bright people out there. There are bright people out there who hold the wrong ideas, in some cases not necessarily for the wrong reasons, because that's the best they've come across. So yeah, the battle is for the minds of individuals.
Yeah, and this leads me to the next target that I have for 2021, which is something that I started in 2020, specifically with the ARI Europe meetups, which is try to combine objectivism with self-development, which we know there are people who do this professionally. For example, Jim Moroni is an example. But I think there's a lot of space there. So, for example, today Zubi wrote a tweet, something like, growing a beard and lifting weights is going to change your life, which is kind of sweet and for a particular audience. And then I thought about it and said, imagine what Objectivism can do if you add to all that stuff. So again, we see people like Zubi with a positive outlook towards life, creating a lot of enthusiasm and having a lot of people who follow them. So, but not so much. So previously we talked about Stoicism as a whole philosophy. Now I'm talking about more specifically people who want to become a better version of themselves every day. And again, there are all these people who have paved the way for that. Zubi is an example. But because if we add to that the element of, yeah, but we can give you the whole package, basically, that's good. And also, this is a good opportunity to remind people that a new thing that the Ayn Rand Center UK is going to do on 2021, however, for members, so this is for all our members, is we're going to run these sessions where we, every month or every 2 months, where we distill and go deep into the best and most, maybe not necessarily the best, but the most popular self-help books and self-development books. So we're going to try to understand what is good in them and what is not good in them from an objectivist point of view. And in a way, it will be we read it so that you don't have to, because we're all busy people. Many people say, I wish I could do more on that, but I haven't got the time. So this is something else that it's not really activism, but in a way, it's activism for your own life. It's something that is going to make your life better. Any comments on something else that you think is a good opportunity for 2021?
Well, I think what you just mentioned is important, and you know, the Zubi tweet, I haven't seen it. I'm not sure I agree on the beard thing. I do agree on the weights thing, at least in theory, if not fully in practice. But there's a reason there, and I'm not sure. Well, I would think Zubi maybe doesn't understand the full reason why lifting weights, you know, would improve your life. I don't know if it changes your life completely, but yeah, you know, mind and body are connected. And it's great that some people encourage others to focus on improving their body or on improving their mind, but objectivism is where you go to understand why both are interconnected. And you don't, you know, there's maybe people for whom there's reason to focus on one or the other. I mean, there definitely are, but yeah, it's not one or the other. It definitely has to be both. And yeah, that's what we're going to do, I think, in that in those sessions where we discuss, you know, personal development ideas that have a lot of merit and often have errors, and we're going to try to identify both.
So that's another reason, if you are not yet convinced or if you're on the fence, shall I join the Ayn Rand Center UK or not? The answer is definitely yes. And now you have more and more reasons. Now that I think about it, the only thing we don't have is something regarding actual, like not only doing something for your mind, but also for your body. But it's difficult to do this from the internet, but who knows, maybe one day it's going to be like this. Although I think, isn't there one objectivist who wrote something about workout, and it's the book that you suggested, the guy who's doing the slow reps?
Yeah, I think it's Doug McGuff. Eamon is the one who recommended it. I haven't read the book, but
okay.
Yeah, it's called Body by Science. And yeah, that was, from what I know, it was an objectivist who developed a system based on an objectivist bodybuilder, Mike Mentzer, who was, I think, in Pumping Iron. So yeah, okay. Actually, listening to Mike Mentzer is very interesting. There's some talks by him online. I recommend.
So probably we're not going to bring you this in 2021, but except from that, there's plenty of stuff happening with Ayn Rand Center UK. So I'm really looking forward to that year. And again, I see 2020 as the year where more and more people went deeper into, let's say, this never-ending loop of despair, stress, waiting on Sky News or waiting for the politicians to tell them exactly, you know, what are the numbers of the day, what are you allowed to do. But at the same time, there were so many people who did the exact opposite, who said, look, I realize that it's time to take my life in my own hands. And that's what I think is the biggest opportunity for objectivist activism on 2021. Address these people, and because we're in the same journey, we use the philosophy first of all to make our lives better, and that's something that I'm really excited about. Okay, anyway, so we don't tap ourselves on the back, so I'm not gonna say, good work on 2020. I've said this many times. It's good. We're probably gonna do it tomorrow anyway in the last. Oh, by the way, tell us something about tomorrow's daily objective.
So tomorrow we'll have all 4 co-hosts. That's you, Rucka, Mark Pellegrino, Jonathan Honig, in a special end of year Ask Me Anything. And what else is there was
Ask Me Anything, and some rambling and random thoughts about the past, the future, whatever. We'll see.
Yeah, and it'll be a longer episode than usual. This is a slightly shorter episode than usual, so it might be double the length of this one. And we are back on New Year's Day as well. Yes, we're here every weekday, so Christmas Eve, doesn't matter. We're here. So yeah, I'm
gonna be a good Greek Orthodox, and I'm gonna take New Year off.
Well, Jonathan and Ruck are gonna be good Jewish atheists, and it's come to work.
Okay, right. So people, in 38 minutes, again, stick to, actually don't stick to the channel. I think there's a separate link. So go to our YouTube channel. You will see the link for the discussion with James and Harry Binswanger. So we have 2 people who, by the way, this is a big picture for Ayn Rand Center UK. We're gonna bring you, and we're gonna keep bringing you people who have really good knowledge of objectives. So there are 2 levels. It's the level of us, the students, who give our personal point of view, our commentary on current affairs, but also we have the level of the teachers of objectives that we bring in to help us understand the difficult and deep issues. So as part of this, again, in 38 minutes, James Valiant and Harry Binswanger are going to discuss all the controversy around the real or alleged use of Ayn Rand around the issue of homosexuality. So 7 p.m. UK time, Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube channel. The link is already there. You can find it. I'm gonna be sharing. Okay, so from myself, from the boss, all the best. Not from myself, the boss, from myself and the boss, aka Razi, all the best, and see you soon.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye-bye.